We're doing practical things that's going to help families, help the children to be in education, because there you learn English, maths, physics, science, everything. And not only that, but the well-being of being able to be in the garden and look at the tomatoes growing and the veggies growing. It'll help mental illness. It'll help everyone.
This podcast is proudly supported by the Ōtara Network Action Committee, ōNAC Community-Owned, community-driven, and community-led. Welcome to the Otara podcast. We're here with an amazing individual. I think he's up for knighthood. Well, he's up for knighthood. I believe that the Queen needs to fly down, come to Otara, knight him. It's Sully. Say hello, my friend.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Great to be here this afternoon, and
yeah.
Thank you for the warm greeting.
Oh, thank you, brother. You graced us, so it was awesome, man. I've heard about awesome things from Judy. You're just an awesome superhero amongst the community, and it's a privilege to do this, especially for episode number 1. So thank you so much. So to kick it all off, I want to hear about you. I want to hear about Sully. So what makes Sully amazing? For those who aren't aware of Sully already.
Where do I begin? My story goes back. Let's go back just to give you a brief, little bit of an introduction of my journey, where I began and where I am now and what I do. I always go back to paint a picture because it'll give you an idea. I was originally born in the Island of Niue, and my early childhood wasn't the best. Grew up in a family that is very strict in the disciplinary side. So there are a lot of areas that I would like to talk about, but I'm not at this point would like. But let's fast forward. My grandfather introduced me to the bright lights of Aotearoa. He said, "Come to New Zealand, it's a land of milk and honey." Yeah. And that sounds good to me. So absolutely. I jumped on the banana boat, and off we went to Aotearoa. And it was at first the bright lights and everything that was fun. So my journey from there and straight into the pub with my grandfather. And that's where things began to happen for me. Things that not supposed to happen. Got into, fast forwarded a bit, I drank too much. The alcohol controlled me. I thought I could control it, but it controlled me to a point where I became an alcoholic. To a point where life is just not fun anymore. Yeah. So I got to that age where I was ready to fall off. And I think from there, the Almighty God turned up at my doorstep at the early hours of the morning, turned my life around, and put me in a place where I ended up in Ōtara. Mm-hmm. And that was where my journey began. Prior to that, I was connected to the part of the Ōtara stormtroopers, the gangs. So I've had a bit of the gangs, the drugs, the alcohol, the violence, the rock and roll, all that. I've done all that stuff. And it wasn't good for me. Put me in a bad place. But turned my life around and moved into an environment where I began to see things of the past that I've been. I saw youth, I saw children that are going in the same direction where I've been. So I chose and decided then that I need to do something. And so I took a step of faith and stepped out into that territory of working with youth. That was in 1979. Wow. And the rest was history. And so from 1979 to today, I still do what I do, that is connect and hang out with youth, just being there. My role is just a friend and giving them some direction or where not to go and how they can achieve their goals. And so along the way, I've learned through the streets of hard knocks, I've learned so much, and I'm able to pass on my knowledge to those that I work with. I do what I do because I love it, enjoyed it. It keeps me passionate, keeps me young. Yeah, keeps me on that track where I can be able to give to others help others. And through the years, many stories. So that's kind of a short version of a little bit of my journey.
Sorry, that's the short version. I would love to hear the full version, but like you said, there are things that are kept to yourself, which is understandable. You, sir, are an amazing individual. Just hearing about it within that brief 2 to 3 minutes, wow. You never know a certain person until you hear about it or you walk in their shoes, and that's an important thing when you're teaching the young, is that you understand what kind of paths that they're walking through. So going into the next part of things is that what is your vision that you want to see for the young ones of Ōtara, those who are stepping into bigger shoes when they come into your awesome light, as see.
I never discovered myself until way later in the years. In fact, I'm still just discovering myself. There's some things that I discovered about myself now that I didn't know. And so what I do is look at a young person and I can see the potential and see what they're put in here, on planet Earth for, their purpose, finding their purpose. That's a big one for me. When I meet a young person, that's the conversation is, who are you? Where you going? And all those questions, what's your goal? What's your dream? What's your vision? And that has always been my conversation, to be able to get them to a point where they can be able to tell me what their dreams are. I sat with Paulie Fuimana, how bizarre, in my garage. This is before he started OMC. And we talk about our dreams. We talk about our aspirations, and we talked for a long time. And we got excited, and he came out of there and went and started OMC. And I went and started an organization called Crosspower Ministries in Ōtara, 1994. But that was what it's all about. It's about recognizing that goal. What is the purpose of a young person? And every time, and I still do it, I talked to some yesterday, same thing. I want to see what you got, finding what you got, because every person, every child that I talk to, everyone that's put it on planet Earth is here for a purpose. And that is my purpose, help others to discover who they are.
Well, if those purposes comes with challenges, then, and if you don't mind, what sort of challenges do these kids come through? It's quite hard to when you're talking to them, especially when from a young to an older generation, the respect has to, when I was growing up, my mother and father, I always learned to always respect your mother and father, your elders. What sort of challenges that you face when it comes to that sort of thing? Because you may not be in that sort of picture where, this is a stranger, I do not know who it is, do I feel safe with them?
A lot of challenges. Many young children and youth that I had come across carry so much challenges in their lives, particularly those who are just raised by mom or dad, or raised by grandparents. They don't have any role models, and the only role models that they have is the guy on the street. And most of the time, the guy on the street is the bad role model. But they're drawn to that because it gives them that sense of connect, family, and so that's just one of the challenges. Education is a big one for me because I want to see every child that I come across get a good education. But I think that the education system does not work for many of our kids. And so some of the challenges there, and I can tell you many, many stories of young people that had gone through, failed pretty much at primary level, and don't know how they can make it through high school and come out on the other end with qualification in selling drugs in gangs. So there's so many challenges that young people faces today, and part of what I do is to be there, a father, a brother, a policeman, a disciplinary, I mean everything, and to help to carry for them to make it through from intermediate to primary.
Yeah.
And so it's a long journey, because a lot of them do not make it. Many that I've seen ended up in great kids with potential, youth who has so much talent and yet fail, usually because sometimes the support system is not there. Many that are very talented and couldn't make it. I've had many young people that come and thank me for helping them through, and now they're doing really well, and many that tell their stories of where their journey is. And so, but there's still a lot more of our youth that are facing those challenges. So, yeah.
Absolutely. With most challenges, there's always a way or a method for it to get them through those challenges. And I see you every day talking to these kids how to go through those challenges and go through success. As a person from the outside who's wanting to do your line of work, who wants to put their heart into actually helping the kids out there, what would be your advice to see success in these kids, and how would you help them out? Because I let's just say I came out and I feel the call to help those who are in need, especially those who are young. How would I go into that and sort of thing and help out?
That's a huge question. I find sometimes I see, because there's so much to be done, but there's not enough resources and not enough people.
Yeah,
we need more people on frontline who connecting and joining with our children and family, more so now.
absolutely.
Yeah, let me go back a bit and what I would like to do. What I would like to do is that work more with the families, connect more with the families.
Yeah.
And I'm at their doorstep all the time and connect more, because a lot of them, the families had failed in themselves. And how can you encourage your children to go out there and get good education when you fail your education yourself, and you don't. So having to work with the family to give them that, help them with that support system, and that's a huge task. I found, and especially with families who are so dysfunctional, it's very difficult to get them to come to that point where they can be able to do something constructive,
Yeah.
and bringing the whole family together to work together. It's very, and that's where my role is to help them, to give them some direction on how to move forward, and help with those areas. Yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question on that one.
Oh no, you've answered it.
I'm doing a project that will help that, to bring families together and that is my garden project that will help families to bring them all together to look at how we can move from here forward.
Yeah.
For everyone, mom, dad, or grandparents, and the children. There are people who are supposed to be doing the job, but they're only doing just surface stuff in a 9 to 5. What I'm talking about is a 24/7.
Yeah.
You're there, you're connecting, and you're journeying with them. When they face difficulties, you're there. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that being able to connect with families when they go through, more so now during the lockdown. Yep. I have been to families and sensed the urgency of families connecting, because there's somehow some dysfunction, a lot of pressure, a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety, a lot of everything.
Yeah.
So my role is to be there and do what I can, as much as I can. Knowing that someone is there for them gives them that sense of, what's the word? That someone cares.
Comfort, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple things. So that's what I like to see more. I don't like to see, what I don't want to see is the bureaucracy system that 9 to 5.
It doesn't stop there, right?
No,
No.
it doesn't. This is 24/7.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so yes, it's a long term, 24/7.
Absolutely.
So-
It's, to answer your question, yes, it did answer it. It answered the question amazingly. Because if a person like myself had to come up to you and had to do the same amount of work that you have done and you have paved, is that it's not just, like you said, a 9 to 5 thing. You don't turn your clock off like that. It's not like a magic button. That's it. I end the day for it. That's constantly on. I'm already thinking about the next door neighbor, 3 lines down, who's struggling, who's like, my child is hungry, or they're not getting the education they need. I feel like I'm inadequate. You come as a blessing. You knock on that door, and that person opens that door and goes, hey, I hear that you're struggling. Let's work together to take that burden off your shoulders.
Right.
And it's brilliant. It's beautiful.
Well, I have put myself in that position, and I come from that, so I understand. I know what it's like to be in that situation. When there's tension in the family, the kids comes to my place. I say, why are you here? They tell me their story. So what can I do? There's not much can I do, but just to journey with the kids especially, and do as much as I can to ease that. Again, it's just sitting there and listening to their stories, because they got a lot of stories to tell, good and bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You always share the good and bads with anyone, no matter what, right?
Well, we talk a lot, and have a lot of discussion about stuff, and talk about deep stuff as well.
Yeah.
We have an environment where kids feel comfortable to talk about everything and anything. And it's amazing when pizza or fish and chips or comes into the scene, they will talk more. So we have that relationship with children that they feel comfortable. And tell me, now if I want to know who's selling drugs, who's doing the graffiti, whose graffiti is this, or anything that happens in the hood, and I want to know some information, I don't need to ask for it. They already know. And so they'll tell me anything that I want to know about what's happening in the hood, and whose gang is operating here, and who's selling drugs, and who's the kingpin. They know all that information. Wow. So I have a relationship with children that they tell me stuff, and stuff that no young children should be exposed to. So, yeah.
That's some deep stuff, man.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. To grow up in that kind of environment today, you know, many kids are marked for life, pretty much. They're abused, all kinds of abuse, and many times the abuse that I know that it's way deeper and worse. So that's the relationship I have with my neighborhood. I know my neighborhood. I know where the kids are at. I know where the families are at. I made it a point to be, because I live there.
Yeah.
It's my place. It's my home. So,
You want to know what's out there in your neighborhood, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that I want to be nosy. This is my heaven. This is my piece of paradise, and I want to do something to keep it. Yeah.
Awesome. So we've talked about the past and we've talked about the present. What is it that you want to envision for Ōtara? What is your bigger vision for Ōtara in the future? Let's jump ahead light years to 3000. What do you want to see? What's the picture that you have?
I would like us to take our responsibility of our community, leaders of our community, and making decisions based on the fact that we live here and we know what our community needs. And because in the past, we made some suggestions, but nobody listened. We know exactly what Ōtara needs, but the politicians and local government and leaders are not listening. They only do things that feels good for them, to tick their boxes, but not to do things that is good for us. And that's the first thing I want, is that I want the politicians to hear from us that we want to take responsibility of our community. Because we know, because we live here, and we know what needed to be done. But that we need that support, we need their resources. We know what need to do. I've been, like I said, since 1979. I preached the same gospel, the same thing. Nobody listened. They only come in and bring their box for us to fit into. And at the end of this government, the next government comes in, things change. Nothing's changed. Ōtara's still the same.
Same
The issue's
cycle.
still the same, if not worse.
Yeah.
From my perspective, is that we know people of a community, we know what our community needs, and we need to focus and build on that. And we have the solution. We just need the resources.
Absolutely.
And to see more people like Judy and Tony and others in community need to be supported more, and more resources to put into
Absolutely.
frontline, and build an education system based on what we have learned and what we have known from our community, the way we see it.
Yeah.
I'd like to educate our kids, not sending them to school. I'd like to build our education system from Ōtara, from our perspective. Because a lot of the times, yes, I know they go to school, but a lot of the that I know, and the kids themselves have told me, on the things that we have done where we are with what we have, the kids said to me, why don't you start a school? We'll come to your school. Many, many times, not once, but many of them. And because what I do is very strong educational based. Everything that I do, in fact, is strong in education.
Yeah.
I taught my children at home, 3 of them. And all the negative things that they've said was all a lot of talk. My kids turned out quite well. In fact, they were way ahead of their peers. And so I believe that if we can take responsibility of our community and be a part of the education system to change some things, because it doesn't work, I think that because that would be for our community to move ahead, we need to focus on that area of education, an alternative education for our kids, because we're not equipping enough today for the changing and challenging times ahead.
Absolutely.
That's one of the biggest concerns for me. I see our kids today. I see the issues that are coming, in the future, that is ahead of us. Our kids are not equipped at all. They'll fall straight back into the poverty, diseases that have eaten our families have suffered. So, to go back to your question, I'd like to say to the politician, give us resources. We will do what we ought to do for our community, because we know. I would, and I do everything in my power that I know to be able to see our children and their families go from here to there to there. And with the help of the many passionate friends like Judy and Tony and ŌNAC, I think I would like to see more of ŌNAC be responsible in moving our community forward and bringing changes, because some things has to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Well said. I was holding my breath with everything when you said, and it's on the nose. I've grown up in Otara for 31 years. As a child, I was blessed to have the things I had and to see my other peers, my other brothers and sisters around me. You know, I did not know what to do, how to help them out. But then when you meet people like Sully and you meet people like Judy and Tony in your life, then you get a good picture on how to do things. And then that's how you shape yourself and you shape your life around the good people around you. And then you be able to make those around you feel that good glow of just positivity and help. And just hearing all of this today, it puts a really good spin on what I can see in the future. And I appreciate with your words and your wisdom.
I'm not very good at words. It's not my gift. I'll speak when I need to, but I speak I preach my gospel with my hands. I believe in the practical things, and what I have seen for many, many years is that there's so much talk, there's so much meetings, there's so many strategic meetings, there's so many of words that have been said, but in terms of what's being done, it's very little. Yeah. I like to, when I want to do something, I do it, get on and do it, and talk while you're in it. And most of the meetings that I've gone to, there's lots of words, but not enough action. And that's what I would like to do. And that's where I'm strong in. I don't talk too much. If you want to hear me talk, come into the front line and hear and see firsthand. That's why I'm getting into what I'm doing now. And that's the project that I really feel that ŌNAC is already on board. And this week, we're kicking off a garden project. It's not just a garden project. It is a garden project that is going to cater for everyone, and that is our way to get into the homes to connect with families. Yeah. And that way, I can go and check up on their garden and check up on everybody how the garden is growing, and so it is a project that will help families, bring them together. Yeah. Particularly in a climate we are in now, is that people need to grow food. Yeah. And because we're involved in giving food parcels. And when I go to visit families, I see a huge yard. And I see gardens, I see veggies here, I see good stuff. So now it's ready to happen. And I am already busy. But again, it goes back to, we're doing practical things that's going to help families, help the children to be in education, because there you learn English, maths, physics, science, everything. And not only that, but the well-being of being able to be in the garden and look at the tomatoes growing and the veggies growing. It'll help mental illness. It'll help everyone. So I just want to throw that in.
No, absolutely.
Because that is our project from here onwards. It's getting into the homes, doing gardening, and make it fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds cool, man. That sounds cool. It reminds me of my mum when she was in the garden. She's still trying to get me in the garden sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's an awesome project, and I wish you the best in that project with everyone that's involved.
Thank you.
I always like to close off with final words. Do you have anything to say, like a little proverb or something that would lift up someone who would listen to this podcast?
Well, sometimes we're looking out there for help when help is already in you, and looking within us and within our community. We've always been looking out, but I believe that we're there. What you're looking for is already there. Don't look out there. Look within. We're there. And we're there for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sully. Thank you so much. That is us, Ōtara Podcast. Hit us up in many links if you see it around us, and hope to see you on the next episode.